We knew Angel City was up first, and they took it away right from the start.
I love this pick. We're just gonna get down to the nitty gritty. Angel City comes in with the first pick in the expansion draft, right? And they go with a midfielder in Danny Weatherholt from All Rain. She's plays in the six, a defensive midfielder. She's a league veteran, right? Multiple years in the league, got 6 seasons under her belt here, and a California native. I thought it was a great pick out the gate for Angel City, and when they made it, I was like, oh, they're still coming to play even after all of these moves, right? That they made ahead of the expansion draft. I was like, this is just bulking up their middle third there. And I really like that they made this pick to start things off.
That's the point, Sandra. You could have seen either of these teams, San Diego or Angel City, really go for players that haven't seen a lot of time on the field, that could be those players off the bench coming in, not getting those starting spots, just to create depth at positions. And with this first pick in Danny Weatherall from OL Reign, this was not a depth pick for Angel City. Yes, she plays that defensive midfield position, that 6 holding midfield, and Angel City already has Julie Ertz in that position, but Julie Ertz is still injured and she's still recovering from that. So this is a player in Weatherholt that could come into Angel City and really set the tone. As you mentioned, she is a veteran and now returning home to Southern California with Angel City. This is a huge move. And that's something that we talked about in our preview, that we thought that these expansion clubs were going to try to get players that were from California, that wanted to return home to California. That's been such a big theme throughout this league, is that players want to play in front of their home crowds in hometowns. And now that there are 2 teams in California, San Diego and Los Angeles, we were going to see players that were from Southern California being moved back into these teams. And I'm no surprise that Danny Weatherholt went first, honestly, because she is such a tremendous defensive midfielder. She can get stuck in on tackles and plays, but as soon as she wins the ball, she can also be that pivot player, switching the ball from one side to the other. So big pickup for Angel City to start. San Diego, though, they were moving right along, second pick in this NWSL expansion draft, Sandra. Who else did it go to than Houston Dash's own Christy Mewis, midfielder? She was unprotected, one of the players that I think a lot of people starred and circled when they read the Houston Dash unprotected, protected player list, because Christy Mewis is a U.S. women's national team veteran. She was at the Olympics this summer, attacking midfielder player, such a playmaker on the ball. She can dribble with so much speed at defenders, have that creative mindset to play those little slip balls through to her forward. She can even rotate through into that front line as well. Such a versatile player, and she gets picked up by San Diego.
You know what? They made this pick, right? And I was like, oh, we got a heavyweight match going on right here. You had Angel City with the Weatherholt pick, and then you had San Diego taking a midfielder of their own, but it was Christy Mewis, right? So choosing a U.S. allocated player from Houston Dash, right? We just sort of knew that with the rules in place ahead of this, that Houston was probably going to maybe make a move, and leaving this player off kind of raised some eyebrows a little bit for Houston. But San Diego also selecting this player, we knew, and then we're going to talk about this more towards the bottom of this episode. But a lot of us sort of knew that there were some unannounced trades, right, coming into play. We knew in the back of our minds that there was going to be another trade window that would open back up ahead of the regular NWSL draft taking place on Saturday. So what is this? Was this going to be a solidified pick? Was Christy Mewis going to be part of the San Diego Wave Football Club family? And turns out that wasn't the case, but we're going to get to that later. So at the time, you're thinking, okay, 2 picks back to back. You're talking about 2 experienced midfielders, right? Mm-hmm. 2 Cali sides coming into play. But then you've got number 3, right? You've got Angel City back on the clock, and they end up going with a forward, right? So they choose a midfielder first, and they end up going with a forward. They choose from Orlando Pride. They go with Claire Emsel. Excuse me, am I saying that correctly? NWSL analyst and broadcaster Lisa Roman.
Yes, Claire Emsley.
you always want to double check and not disrespect any
Yeah,
player in the name.
of course. I'm not sure. She's an international player too, so to have her back in the NWSL is huge. Scottish international there. She has played in the league before, but she's coming back. Her rights were owned by Orlando Pride, so that was the pickup from Orlando Pride that we saw from Angel City, because Orlando Pride, a team that really wasn't protected throughout this draft, so it's no surprise that we saw one or two of their players get snatched up early.
It's again, this was another one where we're just kind of like, okay, there were two teams that we knew for sure coming in here that didn't have roster protection, right? We knew it was Houston, we knew it was Orlando. So I was a little bit curious as the players that were going to be selected out of these two clubs. And then I think this was another one. This was another pick right after Kristen Mewis that people maybe had their eyes on a little bit. Still, even now, sort of post expansion draft here, where they're kind of wondering where this particular player is going to fit in for Angel City. Someone who has been playing overseas in England for a little while, ties to Everton. Is Angel City committing to a player that they've maybe had some conversations with already, that is going to commit to them and come on over and play for Angel City? I'm sure we'll find out. Yes, a Scottish international, very, very crafty player. You could maybe utilize her along that entire front line, right? We'll see.
Yeah.
And who knows if she's going to end up utilizing one of these international picks, right? That Angel City has gotten. I believe they got one from Chicago during this trade window. We'll find out whether or not that's going to be utilized for that player.
I think we will see that. And one of the cool things about the CBS draft coverage is that Marissa Pilla was chatting, and she got the opportunity to talk with Casey Stoney and Freya Coombe. And Marissa asked head coach of Angel City, Freya Coombe, about this pick. And Freya opened up and said that, yeah, she's a left-footed player, and we need those. And we need a player that can play on the wing and send crosses in and keep the ball and score goals that they need to. And having that international level of play coming into this Angel City team is huge for this squad. And Freya Coombe actually also said that she can drop her back into the midfield, playing more of a wing back position. Of course, these new teams, we don't really know what kind of formation Angel City and San Diego are going to roll out. And now as these rosters are shaping out, you can see that the possibilities are really endless, especially getting a player like this as the third pick. San Diego then for the fourth pick, their second pick in this draft, back on the clock, Kristen McNabb, the defender and midfielder from OL Reign. So that was OL Reign's second player to lose in just the top 4 picks of this draft. And if that tells you anything, is that OL Reign's roster is incredibly deep and incredibly talented, because Kristen McNabb going to San Diego, she's been in the league for a number of years, and she plays a defender. So she can either drop into that center back position and be a communicator and an organizer in the back line. San Diego also, we know that they have Abby Dahlkamfer in that center back position as well. But Kristen McNabb is a player that can also play on the width. She's more comfortable playing in that center back position, but out in an outside back position or even a defensive midfielder 6 role, Kristen McNabb can shine, and she can be that connector player for San Diego. So she was San Diego's pick for 4, and the second player to go from OL Reign, the first being Danny Weatherall, and the first overall pick for Angel City.
Listen, when Kristen McNabb went, I said, that's rough. I said, that's rough for OL Reign. OLR, ours for rough, because it was, it's going to, listen, the trade window was tough for a lot of teams. You saw a lot of the hardcore fan base sort of reacting to some of the trades that were taking place during that trade window, right? And then you had that other part of it, right, where it's expansion draft, and you're going to have maybe hardcore fan bases of those teams also react to a night like this. And we saw that happening for OL Reign with these two kind of players going, not back to back per se, but pretty early in the selection process of this expansion draft. Angel City was back on the clock with pick number 5. They went with another forward, and I was a big fan of this pick as well, and Jasmine Spencer from the Houston Dash. You're talking about a 9-year veteran of this league, one of the forwards that I really enjoy watching play in NWSL, and she is someone that I think adds additional depth for that forward core that it looks like they're starting to build in Angel City. And they got that first piece in somebody like Kristen Press, who I think if you make that big leap for that type of player, that is a player who is going to be starting on your front line. But who are you going to be utilizing around a player like that, right?
That's exactly what you have to look at, knowing that Kristen Press is already going to be in that starting lineup, playing that number 9, that striker for Angel City. It's how can you complement Kristen Press, because Kristen Press is going to do what Kristen Press does, and that's get the ball, dribble at defenders, get in behind, look for the long balls over top, look to go 1v1 with the last defender and then even the goalkeeper against opponents. So playing or drafting a player like Jasmine Spencer in this expansion draft from Houston is huge. I think this is a great pickup. Jasmine Spencer is so quick on the ball. And if you throw her up top alongside a player like Kristen Press, I think that relationship can really grow and develop to be teammates that can give and go around defenders, can slot in behind back lines. And who knows, maybe we'll see Jasmine Spencer get the start. She can come off the bench for Angel City. I think that's something that still needs to be developed a little bit more over the next few weeks. But this was a huge grab for Angel City. Another player, honestly, when I looked at the unprotected player list, especially for Houston, Christy Mewis was the first one. And then Jasmine Spencer, another player that was left unprotected, frankly, and a player that can create such a spark. And also her mindset, her mentality, a veteran in the league, 9 years in the NWSL. So she understands what she's doing, and she can join a team and really fit right in with her personality. She's upbeat. She's just a joy to chat to and to play with. I've heard from players. So this was a huge, huge grab for Angel City.
Absolutely. Shout out to Aaron Sullivan talking about Charlie Press, right? And possibly Spencer in that front line. I'm in complete agreement with you, Aaron. That's if you're looking at the opposition looking at that, you're saying, oh boy, and like bracing yourself, right? As the defensive back line having to go up against a potential front three like that. But yeah, loved this pick from Angel City. Absolutely. I'm in agreement with you. Could either be a starter, could either be somebody who comes off of the bench. And I don't think people should discredit or look past NWSL ready type of forwards. You're talking about a player that's been in this league for as long as it has existed, right? And that is so important, I think, when you are an expansion club and you're trying to flesh out and build out your rosters, because this is a player that went to Houston kind of mid-season and didn't need a lot of time to make an impact with that club. And if you're Angel City, you're looking at somebody like like Jasmine Spencer and saying, we want that type of player to come here to Angel City and not need a ton of time to get adjusted to this type of tempo or the type of play that we're going to try to be developing with our new head coach. So I think this was a solid pickup for them all around. And I think we're talking about this a little bit more than maybe some other players, because as we started getting towards the latter end of this expansion draft, we started to see less picks. Lisa, you had San Diego Wave FC with the number 6 pick, and here comes President Jill Ellis and says, pass. We're good. And we're like, okay.
Sandra, she even prefaced it. The camera and the mic cut to her maybe before she was ready for it. And she goes, well, this is going to be anticlimactic. We pass. Which honestly, like looking at what kind of happened, I wasn't too surprised at this. I knew there was going to be a pass or two in this draft just based on which teams could draft from which other teams. And it was pretty hard hitting up front in this draft. I'd say the first handful of picks, even up until the 5th, Jasmine Spencer, huge picks and heavy hitters for both of these sides. And then for Jill Ellis to just give us a solid pass and move right along to Angel City for the number 7th pick.
And we knew we were going to have to keep our eye on that. We're like, okay, this is clearly because of some things that are probably going to come down the line, but they kept it moving. So we got to keep it moving. Angel City coming through at number 7 with another selection from Washington Spirit. They went ahead and they chose a defender after going midfielder, then forward, going the defensive end and choosing, again, another veteran, 4 years in the league, Paige Nielsen out of Washington Spirit. What is your take on this pick, Lisa? I know we talk about it all the time. If people are just joining us for the first time, Lisa and I are big fans of defense here on Attacking Third. We love it. We love to talk about it. Lisa, former defender out of Marquette University. Why was this a good pickup in your opinion, or not, for Angel City to get somebody like a Paige Nielsen? from the Spirit.
Personally, I think this was a great pick. Paige Nielsen with Washington Spirit. She had a good season this year. She struggled with some injuries, so she was in and out of the lineup and even in 18 for games. But she's a player that can come in and really play that center back position and organize well and do that, but also be an outside back and use her speed and her athleticism to get up the flanks and send crosses in. We saw that a lot with Washington Spirit. They use their outside backs to really join into the attack, which I imagine we'll see from Angel City and Freya Kuhn, because that's exactly how Gotham played when Freya Kuhn was there, with Caprice Didasco out on the flank, constantly sending crosses in. So to grab a player like Paige Nielsen, who has that versatility to play as a defender, a lockdown 1v1 defender. She can get stuck into tackles, make those hard plays that break up opponents' momentum moving forward, and then also have the versatility to get the ball at her feet, dribble forward, take the space in front of her, combine down the field, and send crosses in. It's really a twofold pick for Angel City. And then when you look at the full roster for Angel City, they have Sarah Gordon, they have Julie Ertz, they have those players that can lead. Sarah Gordon, she's a player that you want in your center back, that can really organize and be loud vocally. So now putting Paige Nielsen alongside Sarah Gordon, those two can balance each other out because they have experience playing in the league and playing with teams, Chicago and Washington, that have a lot of success. Hey, they were the two teams in the 2021 NWSL championship. So this is a huge get for Angel City. And I'm surprised it took them until the 7th pick to pick up a defender, honestly, just based on how everything was going with them and already the forwards and the midfielders that they have.
I think I'm going to agree with you on that. I'm a little bit curious to see how it's going to play out, because I know, both Nielsen and Gordon are used to maybe sort of playing that right kind of center back role. So I'm curious to see like what the adjustment is going to be there, if any. But I mean, if they can figure it out, whoever wants to slot in left and right, I think that is going to be a really fierce center back duo. I mean, you've got Paige Nielsen, and Sarah Gordon. You got Sarah Gordon, who's going to be running him down, and you got Paige Nielsen, who's going to be wrecking him up. I mean, it is going to be like, watch out. So I like this pick as well, for Angel City at 7. And I'm just going to go back to back here, Lisa, if that's cool with you, because we had San Diego to close things out at number 8 and number 9. And San Diego hit us with the pass again. So obviously alluding to some things that we had heard throughout the duration of the trade window, potential moves with Orlando, potential moves with Portland Thorns, right? We were wondering if something was going to happen. And there were 2 passes that took place, which led to the 9th and final pick of the expansion draft, which also ended with San Diego Wave. And they went with Kaylee Real, a defender out of Racing Louisville FC. And I'm gonna pick your brain on this one again, too, Lisa, because we talked a little bit about choosing defenders towards the end of this expansion draft, but in particular, this defender out of Racing Louisville. I mean, because this was a center back for a Racing Louisville back line that had a rough go of it, right, in their inaugural season, conceded a lot of goals, but this was someone who was kind of a consistent presence for this back line throughout their entire season.
That's exactly right. Kaylee Real is a player that she wasn't super consistent for Louisville on the field, but she did get minutes, and especially with an expansion side in Racing Louisville. And now to be headed over to San Diego, another expansion side, I think that this experience will be different for Kaylee Real this year. I see her coming off the bench as that center back position, maybe taking this year to develop herself and to look at players ahead of her like Abby Dahlkemper that will be in that starting center back position, because the differences between Dahlkemper and Kaylee Real is, I would say, on ball. Defensively, they're both very good defenders locked down, but Abby Dahlkemper has the vision to break lines with one pass, finding forwards' feet that just eliminate the middle of the field completely and midfield opponents. Whereas Kaylee Real's vision needs to develop a little bit more, and playing every single day alongside a superstar defender like Abby Dahlkemper at San Diego will be huge for Kaylee Real's development. And also with a coach, Casey Stoney, who was a center back herself for years, and now as a coach, I think that says a lot about picking Kaylee Real from Casey Stoney, because as a former center back, Casey Stoney, understands not just where a player is, where they have been, and how they've developed up until today, the middle of December. But Casey Stoney, head coach, can look at Kaylee Reel and say, this is how you can progress. And this is how we can grow you to be a star defender, a center back for not only San Diego, but in the NWSL, and a player that a lot of clubs look at to say, you are going to be hard to break down. So the future for Kaylee Reel is very bright at San Diego. And being drafted here at number 9, I don't think that's a knock at all on Kaylee Reel. It's a little interesting that San Diego chose to pass the first 2 and then hold it till the very last draft and then pick up Kaylee Reel. But hey, Jill Ellis, she's going to do what she wants to do. So I'm okay with it there, but no knock on Kaylee Reel being the last draft. This is a huge star on Kaylee Reel's roster, or on her resume.
We'll see how the rest of the rosters for both of these teams continues to develop, because that's it. That's a wrap for the expansion draft selection portion